Hi guys, it's Rox. Welcome back to Rock City, and today I wanted to share a quick video in which I talk about the difference between choosing a hotel and an apartment for your accommodation while on vacation in Europe. So, folks are familiar with hotels and a lot of their policies and that kind of thing, but when you're going to Europe and this is your first trip, you have to kind of think about how your accommodation might make a difference, whether it's in a hotel or in an apartment. And one main thing about a hotel is, they have typically someone who is there at the front desk all day, right, 24/7. Whenever you arrive, no matter how late your flight is, you will be able to talk with someone who can check you in and give you your keys and that kind of thing. For an apartment, not so. Normally they have very limited hours, and not very limited, but up until a certain time at night, possibly 10-11 p.m. is when they'll have someone, kind of like a custodian or someone, who will be able to give you your keys and share some information about your apartment. So you're not going to have someone sitting there at a front desk waiting around to give you your keys. Another thing is, normally hotels for the most part have very clear signage. So hotels will have a big old sign saying, Hotel Catalunya or whatever hotel it is. For an apartment, usually you're trying to find potentially an obscure address. So you have to be very careful about making sure that your directions are very clear about where you're headed to. And if possible, as you are Googling your directions for your apartments, make sure that you look for any major landmarks around it. So look if it's like across from a major hotel, or if it's across from a grocery store with signage. That will help you when you come in to be able to locate your apartment easily. Another difference between a hotel and an apartment might be some of the amenities that are available. So for example, in a hotel, folks are used to having things like pools, so access to a gym, or access to a restaurant. For the most part, with apartments, you won't be having a pool. I mean, I have seen a few, but for the most part, you won't. And you'll have very likely won't have like a gym around, and you won't have a restaurant on site, but the apartment could be in a neighborhood that is very close to a restaurant, so that's something that you probably don't have to worry about too much. Another thing that's very different between a hotel and an apartment: for a hotel, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to be having daily room service. So someone's going to be coming in and they're going to be leaving you certain amenities, certain things, toiletries and that kind of thing. Apartments they have those kind of things as well, but you have to check to see whether or not the scheduling of your housekeeping services is the same as you would expect in a hotel. In many cases, some apartments don't get serviced on a daily basis. They make it serviced maybe every other day. And so if you look in when you first show up to your apartment, you want to make sure that it has enough towels and that kind of thing that will cover all the folks within your party, just in case they're not servicing your room on a daily basis. Another big difference between an apartment and a hotel: in an apartment, typically what I've seen is there's actually a cost for maid services that is separate from what is at the advertised price, and that can be pretty significant. Sometimes it's per guest, sometimes it's per night, but you want to make sure that you think about that cost before you book, because that could significantly add to the price. Whereas for most hotels, the cost of maid service is typically included in the cost of the hotel. Another thing about an apartment versus a hotel: in a hotel, normally you have concierge services, so someone's at the front desk who can help you with things like excursions or getting around the city. In some apartments, you do have some services like that, but that tends to be the higher end apartments. For the most part, in apartments, you're on your own. You kind of have to figure out what you're going to do, so make sure you research ahead of time to make sure that you're able to independently get around your city in case the particular apartment that you've chosen does not have services like that. And then as you think about checking out of a hotel, normally when you're checking out of a hotel, if you're checking out a little bit early and you still have some time left in that city before catching a flight or catching a cruise, normally you can leave your items at the front desk and they can put it in a locked room or something for you. For the most part with apartments, you might not necessarily have that. There won't be anywhere for you to store your items. Some apartments do have that, but I don't think that should be a standard expectation as far as apartments go. The one thing about apartments, though, that I will say are a plus, you do get a lot of space compared to hotels. A lot of times in a hotel, you're in a tiny little room with your bathroom. It's not usually a suite, especially in Europe where, you know, the hotel rooms can be very tiny. Whereas in an apartment, you might have a little bit more room to move around. You may have a separate living and dining space from your bedroom. And in the case where you're staying with more than one person, or there are multiple people, where there are multiple people in your party, you might be able to even have something like a rollaway bed or a sofa bed, so you can have separate sleeping locations for the different people that you're traveling with. Another thing about an apartment, sometimes, you know, if you're staying for a long period of time in a city, it might make sense for you to cook for some of your meals. That might be a money-saving activity. So, for example, you can run to the store and go grab a couple eggs and a loaf of bread and grab some orange juice, and that can be days of breakfast versus having to jump out every day to go buy breakfast. So that's one good thing about being in an apartment compared to a hotel, where normally you wouldn't be able to do things like cook. Or another thing I will say, in an apartment typically they do have some laundry services that you can take advantage of, so you will be able to probably run a machine on your own. I'm sure there's laundry services in most hotels, but you know, it's something that you have to pay an extra cost for and arrange and that kind of thing. So there are many other differences, but these are the main ones that I kind of wanted to point out to folks. I hope this helps someone. Thanks for watching this video, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Have a great day.